Bonjour à tous, c'est avec un énorme plaisir que je me retrouve face à vous. Alors, je suis nouvelle dans la profession, mon nom est Laurence Gaborio, je suis la nouvelle directrice de la SITL et de Supply Chain Event. Donc, mesdames, messieurs, chers exposants et chers visiteurs, je suis, comme je vous le disais, particulièrement heureuse de vous accueillir puisque cette année, c'est une année spéciale puisqu'on va fêter les 10 ans de l'événement, donc de SCE. Avec notre partenaire Supply Chain Magazine en charge du programme des conférences et que je remercie sincèrement. Donc Philippe, toute l'équipe, Maxime, Jean-Luc. Nous souhaitons en effet marquer dignement l'anniversaire de cet événement qui, depuis sa création en 2012, n'a cessé de croître et de connaître un succès croissant. Cette année, nous avons 139 exposants et plus de 15% d'évolution, 4000 m² d'exposition. Ça ne vous dit pas grand-chose. Vous voyez que c'est un salon à taille humaine. Ce salon est votre salon et il a connu un très beau début de fréquentation depuis ce matin. Donc une performance d'autant plus remarquable dans un contexte où, alors que le monde de l'événement lui-même n'est pas encore totalement remis de la crise que nous venons tous de traverser, celui de la supply chain affronte des défis comme il n'en a jamais connu auparavant. Les entreprises du secteur ont connu ces dernières années de profonds bouleversements structurels qui avaient déjà mis en exergue la nécessité pour elles de se réorganiser. La crise à la fois sanitaire et politique, telle qu'elles viennent d'affronter, ont mué ce besoin en impératif de survie pur et simple. Le secret du succès SCE est précisément à rechercher ici. Tout au long de cette décennie, la résilience et la pérennité du salon se sont construites sur sa formule aussi fondamentale, dans tous les sens du terme, qu'essentielle. Un événement, comme je vous disais, à taille humaine, conçu par et pour les supply chain managers autour du digital. Or, si les dernières crises traversées, du Covid à l'Ukraine, ont mis en évidence un impératif primordial pour les entreprises, c'est précisément la nécessité de mettre en place un système de fonctionnement à la fois plus vertueux, souple, durable, réactif et sécurisé. Cela, seul le digital et les innovations qui en découlent peuvent le permettre. Comme le soulignait récemment le président de France Supply Chain, Yann de Feraudy, en supply chain, le levier de premier niveau, c'est la donnée. On ne peut rien faire sans la donnée. Salon à taille humaine, SCE est le lieu idéal pour à la fois se rencontrer, échanger et avoir un aperçu des toutes dernières innovations autour du digital. J'échangeais dans les allées tout à l'heure. J'entends déjà l'énergie et le contentement des personnes qui disent « Je découvre des innovations sur le salon, mais je rencontre aussi des personnes dans l'allée et j'échange et je trouve des solutions. » Et ça, je ne peux que être satisfaite de ce retour-là. Et pour moi, c'est important. En privilégiant les rendez-vous qualifiés et ciblés, il rassemble des exposants leaders et précurseurs et des visiteurs décideurs qui, en grande majorité, sont des directeurs de supply chain des grands groupes, d'ETI et de PME. Là aussi, c'est la force de ce salon, puisqu'on retrouve les trois formes d'entreprise. Aussi, est-ce fort logiquement à deux d'entre eux, hauts cadres de grandes multinationales, que nous avons demandé de témoigner à l'occasion de ces 10 ans. Invitation à laquelle ils nous ont fait l'honneur de répondre favorablement pour vous livrer leur vision des enjeux de la digitalisation en supply chain et partager les éléments clés de leur feuille de route de transformation dans ce domaine pour les prochaines années. Un grand merci par conséquent à François Salles, directeur supply chain du groupe Renault, qui, ne pouvant être parmi nous, nous a laissé la gentillesse de l'accueillir pour enregistrer son intervention. Et tout particulièrement à Hans-Friedrich Zeh, vice-président Industrial Excellence du groupe Danone, qui nous fait l'honneur d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui pour échanger avec vous. Et je laisse la parole à Jean-Luc Rognon, donc rédacteur en chef de Supply Chain Magazine. Merci à vous.
Merci Laurence. Je crois que tu as tout dit, hein. Je vais pas paraphraser. Je dirais simplement quand même que aujourd'hui, la transformation digitale telle que on la voit dans des entreprises, ça peut être même des PME et des grands groupes. C'est vrai qu'on ne l'avait pas forcément complètement anticipé il y a 10 ans. Enfin, on parlait pas forcément de transformation digitale comme on en parle maintenant, et qu'on avait envie aussi de partager, d'avoir des grandes entreprises qui puissent partager cette vision-là sur scène. Donc Jean-François Salles de Renault et Hans-Friedrich Zeh de Danone. C'est pour ça qu'on a construit un peu ce rendez-vous-là. Alors, sachant que ça reste aussi quelque chose d'un peu festif, et que à la fin de ces deux keynotes, donc Digital Roadmap Keynotes, on va dire, on va parler en anglais, vous pourrez venir vous rafraîchir et prendre un petit cocktail là sur le côté, et fêter ces 10 ans qu'on fêtera aussi ce soir. Il y a plein d'autres surprises. Voilà, donc on va lancer l'événement, puisque là vous l'attendez tous maintenant.
Bonjour à tous. La première chose, c'est de vous dire que je suis très frustré aujourd'hui de ne pas pouvoir être parmi vous pour cette 10e édition des Supply Chain Events, la Digital Keynote, qui sera, je suis sûr, un très grand succès cette année. Alors, pour témoigner sur la digitalisation de la supply chain dans le groupe Renault, je voudrais peut-être commencer par un rappel qui n'en est pas, puisque chacun d'entre nous, chacun d'entre vous, vit au quotidien les difficultés d'une supply chain qui est toujours un peu plus chaotique. Et ce qui pouvait apparaître comme un new normal pour un certain nombre de personnes il y a quelque temps s'avère finalement un new never normal, dans ce sens où l'environnement nous rattrape tous les jours un peu plus. Et ce qui, au moment du Covid, s'est avéré être une mise en évidence des fragilités d'une supply chain globale étendue, en fait était apparu au fil du temps comme un système extrêmement déséquilibré, où les crises successives de la pandémie, les crises de composants électroniques qui ont touché l'automobile, mais pas que l'automobile, les crises ensuite géopolitiques en Ukraine, on le voit aussi en Asie du Sud-Est, la difficulté ou les difficultés d'accès aux ressources, matières premières et énergie, font que la supply chain est une fonction qui de plus en plus est en front line des entreprises, du business des entreprises, et doit se transformer, doit évoluer pour accéder à plus de robustesse, évidemment, pour encaisser les coûts, mais surtout plus de résilience, c'est-à-dire une aptitude à s'adapter, à se transformer et être toujours prête à répondre aux enjeux et aux challenges des entreprises. Alors pour y répondre, évidemment, il y a les équipes elles-mêmes et leur capacité à s'adapter, mais il y a aussi tout ce qu'on appelle la digitalisation de cette supply chain. Une des premières applications tangibles de cette digitalisation qui doit permettre de prendre des bonnes décisions, c'est ce qu'on peut appeler la Control Tower. Alors, vous avez derrière moi le premier exemple de cette Control Tower Renault Group, qui vise en fait à mettre de la transversalité, de la connectivité dans toutes les datas de l'entreprise, mais pas que de l'entreprise, on va le voir. Pour ce qui concerne l'entreprise, vous savez que dans une supply, on dispose d'informations de la demande commerciale, des informations de production, de transport, de distribution aux clients. Toutes ces informations sont souvent dans des systèmes legacy assez lourds, assez complexes, et qui souvent ne communiquent pas vraiment entre eux, ne permettent pas d'échanger les données, de les connecter. Et la grosse évolution et ce qu'on a été capable de mettre en œuvre au travers de cette Control Tower, c'est justement de connecter toutes ces données, de les rendre plus intelligentes entre elles et de pouvoir les exploiter. Ces données, en plus, on va pouvoir les enrichir avec des informations complémentaires, des informations que l'on appelle de communautaires, qui viennent de nos partenaires, et en particulier sur le tracking du transport, de la logistique. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes capables de traquer près de 100% de nos camions qui circulent en Europe. Pour un groupe comme Renault, c'est à peu près 1 million de legs chaque année qui sont opérés partout en Europe et qui sont tracés en dynamique, en live, derrière moi. Ce leg communautaire, cet espace communautaire de data, provient d'informations sur le transport terrestre de notre partenaire Shipeo, qui est un acteur de premier plan, qui est jeune, mais un acteur extrêmement performant aujourd'hui en Europe. Et notamment avec un avantage, c'est de pouvoir donner un ETA d'une précision inégalée sur le domaine. Un autre acteur qui nous permet d'obtenir une info complémentaire, c'est l'information de tracking du conteneur maritime. C'est aussi une jeune société qui s'appelle Baiko et qui nous permet non seulement de faire le booking de nos conteneurs, mais d'en suivre ensuite le transport, les routes de manière dynamique partout dans le monde. Donc ça, ce sont des données communautaires de tracking de transport rafraîchies toutes les 10 minutes qui viennent enrichir les couches d'informations propres à l'entreprise, du MRP, du TMS, du WMS, tous les systèmes de la supply de l'entreprise. Et un troisième niveau d'information vient enrichir cette control tower. Ce sont des informations dites publiques provenant de notre autre partenaire qui est Google, et qui nous permettent cette fois d'accéder à des informations de type simplement la météo, par exemple une zone qui va être soumise en hiver à un événement de neige. Et on sait que dans cette zone-là, on aura des difficultés de transport, on peut les anticiper, contourner ces routes et ainsi ne pas mettre en difficulté les usines clientes, donc la production de nos véhicules et derrière nos clients eux-mêmes. Voilà, donc toutes ces informations internes, communautaires, publiques, permettent d'avoir des informations agrégées, connectées de manière intelligente et fournir aux opérationnels d'une supply chain, que ce soit au niveau du groupe corporate, mais aussi dans chacune des local supply chain en Amérique, en Turquie, en Roumanie, au Maroc, de leur permettre de piloter de manière très précise à chaque instant l'état des transports, la couverture des usines en termes de stock, et donc anticiper tout problème de production dans les usines. Donc ça, c'est une transformation importante parce que à ce niveau de complexité d'étendue dans la supply chain et de connectivité d'informations, de production, de transport ou d'informations publiques, il y a assez peu d'acteurs à même de disposer de ce type d'outils digital, à ma connaissance, dans l'industrie. Voilà. Mais alors ça, c'est une étape qui est importante, qui est tout à fait significative, nouvelle, mais qui n'est pas le but ultime de la digitalisation d'une supply chain, puisque l'objet, c'est aussi d'aller plus loin maintenant dans la connexion des sources d'informations de l'entreprise pour aller aussi sur les informations ou la data du produit. Renault a passé un accord important avec Dassault sur tous les systèmes de conception du produit et de simulation du produit. Donc on aura la possibilité évidemment de pouvoir connecter ces différentes bases de données entre elles. Les informations du commerce et de nos clients, les informations de nos fournisseurs au travers des bases achats. Et tout ça pour finalement arriver à ce que l'on peut appeler un métaverse. Aujourd'hui, on est sur un métaverse industrie qui regroupe les informations de production, de logistique, supply chain. Au bout du compte, c'est d'arriver à un métaverse finalement de l'entreprise, du groupe, sur toutes ces données de production, de conception, de vente, de données aussi d'attente client. Ce métaverse, quel en est l'objectif? C'est de pouvoir finalement être à tout moment capable d'adapter des scénarios, d'adapter des propositions, des options pour l'entreprise en termes de business en s'appuyant sur des informations, des inputs qui peuvent être des inputs de risque d'obtention de matière, d'énergie, d'évolution de la demande commerciale, des tendances commerciales, pour pouvoir proposer à l'entreprise, aux décisionnaires de l'entreprise, les meilleures options en termes de satisfaction client, de profitabilité, mais également en termes d'empreinte CO2 du groupe pour ses produits et leur distribution. Voilà, donc comme vous le voyez, cette transformation digitale de la supply chain est profonde, elle est réelle puisqu'elle est maintenant effective sur la partie Control Tower et elle contribue à la transformation stratégique du groupe de la production simplement de véhicules vers ce qu'on peut appeler une tech company capable d'offrir des services s'appuyant sur notamment une stratégie digitale et ce métaverse dont on a parlé. Merci à vous, je vous souhaite un excellent événement et un excellent supply chain event.
Mesdames, Messieurs, I will switch in English now. Ladies and gentlemen, after this introduction from Jean-François Salles, Supply Chain Director of Renault Group, we are very pleased to have here with us a German top supply chain professional from a French food giant. Please welcome and warmly applause on stage Hans-Friedrich Zeh, Vice President Industrial Excellence at Danone, who will share with us Danone's strategic ambition to digitally transform its supply chain. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, you can hear me already. Perfect. No,
yeah.
Thanks, Laurence. Thanks, Jean-Luc, for having me. And yeah, thanks for listening and coming here today to see what Danone is doing in the area of the digitalization. And I would like to share more or less our journey with you. And I hope it's for the benefit of all of you. Yeah? So why do we... no, that's a bit more... Next one, let's see. That was a slide I was not expecting. Now, oh, I'm moving. No. I was moving in the wrong direction. Now, why digitalization? And we have heard about this one just before from Renault. There was a lot about supply chain. When you look in the area of consumer goods where Danone is operating, there are more aspects to be looked at from our perspective for digitalization. And the first and most important part for us is always the consumer. The consumer expects from us a much more safer product, a better traceable product, and all this we are getting with digitalization. You all want to know where your food is coming from, and you want it to be safe. And ideally, you want this part of the business that you trust the food you are taking. That's number one. Number two is all the landscape of customer service and the expectations of the trade is getting more and more complex. There are more products, and the expectations in terms of service that we are able as a company to deliver these products at any moment in time is increasing. And last but not least, as well, our own supply chain is getting more complex and digitized in the factories with our suppliers and as well with our logistic chain, as we have just seen. So in summary, digitization is not a choice. Digitization is a must. Yeah? The world is moving on, and everyone is expecting us to give the right visibility and to have as well the right, to take the right decisions very, very fast. So what was happening in Danone? Danone, and I'm super happy to see here one of our beloved products, Evian water. Danone, you know very much as a dairy producer for yogurt. But the Danone business overall is built on 4 legs today. Dairy, as you know, yogurt, partially cheese, and especially strong in France. Then you have a big category around water, Evian, Volvic, but as well in globally in a number of other markets in Mexico and in Indonesia especially is a big part of the business. Then we have acquired a number of businesses which are doing plant-based products, Alpro or White Wave in the US. So when you buy soy milk or almond milk, in the end, that is another part which is incorporated into the business today. And the 4th step is specialized nutrition. This is dairy-based food, which is used in hospital, but as well for baby food, and so on. So these are the 4 big legs. And these 4 legs have been separately led over many years for the company. And Danone in 2019 has taken the decision to integrate them into one Danone. And that was enabling us to move from what you see here, a highly fragmented business as well, very much split up, with different models of forecasting, different processes as well, different logistic chains to harmonize all this and to build one model for the future. And that is what we are now working on. So that's about supplier integration. It's about a more consumer and customer-driven supply chain, where we not go with 3 different salesperson or 4 different salesperson to the trade, but with only one. And with this one as well, especially harmonizing our logistic chain. Yeah? And the business impact, as you see here, will be very much about better customer service, optimization, logistic chain, but as well reduction in waste and as well in inventory. So what is our strategic approach? Where do we want to go? And I think the first step is that you really build a strategy. And that is what you see in the next slide. So we have overall 3 pillars we are working on. The first one is the most important one, and partially that was touched as well from Renault, but is going wider, and that is the integrated demand and supply planning process. And we will deep dive into each of these 3 pillars. Yeah? So that's the end-to-end planning from our material demand into the factories, down over the logistic chain to the customers. Then we have a deep dive into customer-connected logistics, and you will see an example of our Mexican control tower. And then last but not least, it's about the area of procurement with e-buying and as well as e-catalog. So let's start with the planning system. And the first part is to build the foundations. And as I told you before, with 4 different categories, there was not really the scale to build the right foundations. So bringing all the business together was enabling Danone to create the foundations of bringing the 4 categories you see here and our engaged people together to create one process. One process for planning, one process as well, and that's what I'm especially responsible for, how we are managing the processes, the factories, one process as well in the logistic chain. Yeah? And all this is the base to run a successful digitization. But it is very, very important to take these first step in the right way, because there's a lot about harmonization, data cleansing, data quality, and so on and so on. Then you run the first pilots, and they are the ones which in the end are showing as well the organization why you are doing it. And they need to bring the right benefits in the organization, and it is as well these areas where you free up the workload of your employees who are doing a lot of repetitive work, and you make them more valuable in their work. So they take better decisions, they take faster decisions, they are able to simulate what will happen with their different decisions. Yeah? And all this with the right digital tools, they are able to do. Yeah? And then at the end, where we really want to go for is what you see over there, and that is an end-to-end control tower. Yeah? So it is starting with building a data lake, which you see in the middle. Then you build digital twins in the factory, in your operation, so that you can as well simulate how certain decisions will impact, how as well a capacity increase will be realized, so both from a demand but as well from a supply perspective you can simulate. And then very important as well is all the part of the logistic chain. Yeah? So all this in the end you need to integrate, and that is where we want to go, and we are working with 09 on this, and we are getting the first parts of this live by the end of this year. So that's about the overall end-to-end planning system, and as well where we want to go is that we are having a much better view there where our customer service and where our products are going, and we are able to trace this one back as well to implications from the suppliers, for instance, in a much quicker way than we are able to do that today. Let's go to pillar 2, and that is about the customer service connected logistics. And that is what I want to share with you, is the control tower we are having logistics in Mexico. Now let me tell you a little bit about Mexico as a country. Mexico doesn't have, for whatever reason, I don't know why, they don't have a very consolidated distribution system. So every big company is running their own distribution system down to the shops. And that is as well is making the need for a control tower much more important. So I was there in September and visited the control tower, and it's amazing when you see how much of your operation you can control just with 15 screens. Yeah? Now they are changing and so on, so it's not always the same, but the system is built that we are able to know exactly when a truck is going to a customer. And when we talk about a customer, these are not big shops as you know from Europe. These are what you call mom and pop shops. These are little bars. Yeah? And they want to have not a carton or 2 cartons of yogurt, they want to have 3 yogurts or 5 yogurts because they don't have the cash to pay for this. So you need a much better control, and still the quality expectations, and that is where I started, are the same. So we need to ensure a fully chilled supply chain. We need to ensure that the products are arriving on time. Yeah? And mobile phones are helping a lot there to build the connection. So in the end, you build a mixture out of what you do with the control tower and more server-based, and what you bring in terms of automation on mobile phones, because they are available in these countries. Yeah? And with this one, we got a lot of results, and you see this here. Now the first one is safety. We got 50% less accidents because we are much more in control of the drivers, how fast they drive, how we plan their routes, and so on. Temperature monitoring, I just talked about it, 50% less rejects. Yeah? Much better control, every truck with the temperature, we see when it's broken, we know when the truck is leaving, whether the truck is loaded, yes or no, with the batteries, and so on. Or the geolocation. Now we know where our customers are. Before, sometimes that was on a paper, on an Excel sheet somewhere. Today, we know 95 and 95. Still 5% we don't know, as well as a constant change, as you can imagine. But this is much better. Service indicators, you see, much better customer service. And overall, the fuel consumption as well went dramatically down. And that is in times as today, very important. And last but not least as well, in terms of assistant for the drivers, we are much having to know when things are happening. So we see when a truck is standing somewhere where it should not stand, and we call the drivers. We are having the mobile numbers always on hand, which as well in itself is already quite a logistic way, because drivers are changing, they are coming in the morning. You can guess that 10% of your drivers are not showing up where you need to bring people around. So you need a very fast system to be able to link drivers and trucks every morning. Yeah? So that's sort of master data work you need to do. But when you have done this, it's working seamlessly. Yeah? And it's a big, big advantage. Let's go to the last part, which is about e-buying and e-catalog. That's the procurement part. And over there, we have 4 areas where we are working on. The first one is productivity. And I think you have heard a lot about this one as well, just from Renault. So it's about the in-time delivery of our products into the factories, but as well how we are giving visibility to our suppliers what we need. Yeah? So this type of collaboration is here, and you do this in an automatic way. Then, especially in the current times, very, very important, is the area of supply security. And it's not only typically in a normal way, you get visibility of your first, maybe your second supplier. But that's not the reality we are living in. We are living in a reality where it's going 4, 5, 6 suppliers up. And you need to model all this, and you better know what's coming. Because you should not sit at the end and not get your material when you need it. So all this, in the end, you need to digitize, and it's quite complex, and then you need to monitor as well the market to know what type of materials are getting tight. Yeah? Where as well you are getting either supply problems or you're having logistics problems as we had beginning of this year. Yeah? So all this is impacting your supply chain, and you need to have visibility on this, because one material missing means the factory is stopped. And that is the same for us or for Renault. It's exactly the same. Next one is supply-enabled innovation. We are just these 2 days, the same as your event here, we are running a Technovation Day, we call it, with suppliers who are working more or less with us in the equipment area, and we run it fully virtually. That is why I can be here. So I was opening this virtually this morning, now I'm here with you. I go back, I look, yeah? It's fully virtual, it's fully digitized, including voting system, all these things. Yeah? So you have a full possibility to digitize your operation, as well in areas where you normally don't think so much about it. And I think the pandemic gave all of us an opportunity to do this in a different way. But now we need to move on. So it is even now when we come back as well to a number of physical meetings, the digitization moves on. And last but not least, sustainability. As you know, Danone has a very, very strong commitment in this area. And our products, in the end, they need to claim, when we claim a certain sustainability on the products, it is including all our supplier processes. So we need to know this. And the only way to get that and to handle it in the right way as well, to run improvements, is to do it in a digital way. But that's not all. So we are very proud with all the work we have done, and I have to say, as well as somehow the beginning, and as well as not a straight road you are going, it's very bumpy. Yeah? I want to be honest in this area as well. But you are getting successes, you are getting lighthouses. And in that sense, I'm very proud to share with you that we have been awarded the lighthouse, or our factory in Opole has become part of the lighthouse network in the World Economic Forum. It's the first factory in Europe overall. It's the first factory in food overall. They have awarded this one. So we are super, super proud of this. It's a factory producing specialized nutrition. And we have started the journey to get there more than 5 years ago with a very, very engaged team. And Jean-Luc was asking me before, sort of how, let's say, what are success factors on this journey? And definitely a success factor in Opole was our very young and engaged workforce. We were able to attract very young talent from the universities around. We gave them an environment where they could work in their way, very natural, yeah, much more open and moving around, and it was more like an open space, yeah, where they were working. And then in the end, they start to take their things. And this in combination with a very engaging product, because young people want to work for a purpose, yeah? That is something which has created the foundations for success over here. Yeah? When you look at the results of all this, controllable cost went down by 19% over the 2 years. The efficiency moved up by 12%. And very important as well, energy consumption was going down by 23%. And that's something which at the moment is very, very important for us, that we see these results, because in a time of heavy inflation, these are the type of results you need to keep your business going. Yeah? So digitization is not only about efficiency, as well as very much in customer service, as well as about bottom line profitability for your business. Yeah? So that was my last slide. I thank you for having me. I thank you for listening to me in English. Sorry, I moved to Paris only in September, so my French is not that good that I could have it in French, but yeah, open for any questions.
Thank you very much, Hans-Friedrich. So maybe we have the opportunity to ask you some questions. You are here physically, so maybe in the audience there are some people who want to have a question for Hans-Friedrich. I have one about the control tower in Mexico. You said that Mexico was they have some specificity in the market, but do you think that this kind of control tower could be developed for other regional?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We started in Mexico because Mexico, the necessity was big, number one. Number two as well, Mexico is a city a country which loves to adopt technology. It's amazing to see how quickly they take up the solutions or develop local solutions and go. But we will implement the same in Europe and as well in the US, absolutely. And these are the two big markets we are having.
And also you mentioned the data lake project with a digital twin with the 09 solution and so on. How do you, this is dealing with technology, but how do you onboard the people into that? You mentioned it, but I just wanted to know, because it's a very vast project with a large amount of data from the 4 activities of Danone. Is it difficult to for the people to change the way they act in their daily operations?
Yeah. Look, digitization is always, on one hand side, you want something from the people, on the other hand, you need to give something back. So it's always important at the beginning to understand what do you ask people to deliver and what do you give them back. And if they feel the deal is the right one, then they're on board very quickly. And I give you one example for that. We were measuring the efficiency in our factories in a very diverse way, as you can imagine. So we harmonized all this. And now we are asking the factories to report all this data into a data lake, where as well in return they are getting back, first of all, an automated scorecard, which is fully transparent and they know what they are getting, but as well they are getting the data not only for themselves and automated, but they are getting as well data of the sister factories. They get wider, let's say they can compare different data in a different way. So we have put sort of the right analytics behind and then sort of how to show it with a Power BI. And you can do this in the end with not too much effort. So you don't need big partners for that. You find small partners who are optimizing this for you. And we can pull as well data from our quality systems, automatically from our commercial systems, automatically, and we create as well sort of one source of truth, which is important, because otherwise everyone comes with sort of his interpretation of the situation. And then you are stuck, because you discuss sort of what data is true. And that is not bringing you anywhere. What is bringing you further is to have transparency on the data, coming back to digitization. Yeah? So it's one source of truth. And then in the end, from there, you talk about the problems and then how to solve them.
So
And,
they can
and
measure.
people are onboarding. We are now we have already 150 factories reporting into the system, and was 3 months' work.
Okay, impressive. So, oh, there is a question. Hold on. You can present yourself.
Eric Renault from the Ministry of Defense. Thank you for your presentation, very interesting. One question related to the energy inflation. How do you manage both in production and in the supply chain to absorb the costs of both in electricity and gas?
And gas. Yeah. Look, it's a super hot topic you are asking, and we are all suffering from this. Yeah. So the first one is that we have a special team working on this, and we worked already, and that was creating sort of for us a bit of let's say a backwind, yeah, because we were working on energy efficiency already from a sustainable perspective very, very heavily, and had a number of projects in the pipeline. But we now have a team which is working sort of in 3 waves, you can say. The first one is really in the factories to bring energy much more on the, let's say, on the front door in terms of visibility. Utilities normally is the last thing you talk about. Yeah? We force them to talk about this in the key areas every day and to look at the results every week. Yeah? And that is creating already a lot of efficiencies. Second step is we have a number of partners going into the factories doing energy audits. And there we are seeing where are inefficiencies, which in the end we can change either operationally or with investment, but with a target to get the advantages of that within the next 12 months. And then the third wave, and we work on all this in parallel at the moment, so it's a huge workload. The third wave is really to look how we can make our factories more independent by investing into solar, by investing into biogas digesters, and so on and so on. So there are a lot of new technologies coming up, and just last week we were running a workshop with energy suppliers to help us on this, to build this roadmap, because the energy crisis is not going away. Yeah, we will, and as well, I think the trust more or less to build all this on supply from Russia, for instance, I think is, for all of us, is undermined for many years. Yeah? So we need to find different ways to run our factories.
Okay, in France we call that sobriety, but energy sobriety. But now maybe we can drink a little cocktail to celebrate the 10th anniversary. But first, a warm applause to Hans-Friedrich Zeh for his keynotes. Thank you very much, Fritz.